This is a video on what to do with your dahlia tubers once you have wintered them over inside your home. As I live in a zone 3 climate, I had to dig them out in the fall time and then overwinter them inside. And how I did that, I usually get a brown paper bag, fill it with some dry peat moss, put in my dahlia tuber and winter it over inside the coldest part of your home, although it can't be freezing. I'm fortunate I have a cold room, so it's at the perfect temperature. In January, check to be sure that there's no mold growing on your dahlia tuber and that the soil is not too dry. If it's too dry, you can just sprinkle a bit of moisture on it. Here's a large container. Make sure that you have a good enough container that it's large enough for your tuber to fit into. Has to have the drainage holes. And then to cover the drainage holes so that the soil that you're going to put in doesn't fall out, if you have some empty containers that you haven't put in recycle, you can use those. I break them up and then I just put them over the holes in the bottom of the container. Not to worry how they're put, just make sure that they're covering those holes and it'll prevent the soil from always falling out once you water. So here's a good healthy tuber. It overwintered very well. You can see that here's one that's dried up a bit, but that's okay, just leave it out. Here's another little one. But all the tubers should be good, healthy, firm to the touch. And if you wanted to make another plant out of this, you can cut it in half with a sharp knife or try pulling it apart, although this one I know won't pull apart. And in the cut areas, you can dust it with some sulfur, let it dry out a bit, and then plant it up as two separate plants. I like a big plant in the container that I'm planting it in, where it goes for the summer, so I'll leave it as such as a whole tuber plant. So I nestle it in there, and because there's all these crevices in the tuber bulb of the dahlia, I just pour this over the soil and tap it down a bit, and also just push in with your fingers to make sure that that soil is getting surrounding all the tuber. These are the stems left over dried from last year, so you realize that that's where the top growth comes. Plant them facing upwards and just continue filling it until you know that the tubers underneath are well covered with the soil. Again, just tap it down a bit and make sure that, of course, you put the tag on, because if you have many varieties of dahlias growing, you won't be able to know the difference between them. Water it well, and then once put it in a nice sunny warm place. If you have a heat mat, that's the ideal temperature to bring it back into greenery. Once you have the greenery growing and you mid-May here, so that there's no frost, plant it up in your garden, because you have to be sure though that there's no frost, as these plants are very susceptible to freezing. Enjoy your dahlia.